This is Kubo. This is the hero of our film, Kubo and the Two Strings, and he's a pretty basic puppet in terms of how these things are typically built. On the inside of his body, he has a little metal armature made out of steel, and it allows us to kind of pose him basically in any way we want, and he'll hold his position. There's a key part of the film which is heavily rooted in origami, and so we actually, when we designed the costumes for these characters, we did them all in origami first. We actually made them all out of paper, and so we basically made this costume out of Tyvek, which is a plasticky paper material, and then covered it in this silk. And something at this scale, it has virtually no weight at all. And so in order to make it feel like it's draping properly, we have a little tiny metal arm that goes from the inside all the way to the hem, and that allows us to move the sleeves. The way we do the skin is it's actually made out of silicone, which actually has a very similar quality to real skin, the way it absorbs light and reflects light. And so that actually makes him look more human. His hair is actually made out of human hair. A little creepy, I know. This thing used to live on someone's head. Now it's on our puppet's head. And the way we make the hair is we actually use human hair, then we comb silicone through it to make it more durable. We put little wires and glues and colored powders on there to give it highlights. But it actually allows us to move the hair to pose it. So if if a breeze is blowing through, we can actually pose his hair a frame at a time, and then move it back, and it actually looks like it's blowing in the wind. When we have to change his face, we use replacement animation, which is a technique that goes back 70, 80 years. But we use these things which are made out of a 3D printer. And we have thousands and thousands of these faces. When we put all the different faces together, there's actually 48 million different expressions for Kubo's face, which is way more than I have. I have about 4 expressions. So he's very much more expressive than I am. But so you can see on the back of each one of these faces, there's all these different codes. It's kind of like a Dewey Decimal System for faces. And we have an entire face library where we put all these faces in trays. And when we figure out what faces we need for a specific shot, we have a facial librarian who finds all the different faces that an animator will need for the shot and then puts them in a kit for the animator to use. When we have to change the face for one of these expressions, we just pop Kubo's bangs off, which is also held together by magnets. Looks a little weird, I know. Wait, it gets weirder. And then we pop his face off. You can see his one little eye is still there, and then you can put another face on, and it just sticks together with magnets. And then, you put a new one on, put the hair back on, and then you're ready to take your frame.
Is the sword unbreakable?
It could be a trap.
Allow me.
What? It's not a trap if you do it?
Stealth is my middle name.
When we made Beetle, he was a little bit more complicated. You can see he's a much bigger puppet. Kubo's about 9.5 inches tall, which for an 11, 12-year-old boy is about the right scale. If you go much smaller than this, they become hard to manipulate. You can't get the subtlety that you want out of the animation. He's supposed to look kind of like a superhero or a bodybuilder who spends a lot of time in the gym working out on the bench press, but not doing a whole lot of things for his quads. So because of that, because he's got the kind of the traditional superhero proportions, that means that his ankles are actually really small, which also means he can't support his own weight. The way we put these puppets on the sets is most of the sets are made out of wood. And so we just take a drill and we drill into the wood, and then all the puppets have these little holes in the bottom of their feet that we then just use these little screws, screw up into the bottom of the set, use a little, like a wing nut or some kind of a nut, and screw him into the set. So we have an external rig that we use to keep him supported. And then after we shoot a shot, we'll then take that stuff into the computer and we'll paint out all this stuff so it doesn't look like he's being supported by an external rig. The design was based off of a Japanese rhinoceros beetle, which is called a kabutomushi, which literally means helmet bug, and they called it that because the head of the bug actually looked like a samurai helmet. And so when we want to change his face, what we do is we just do a similar thing. We flip off the front of the helmet, we take off the beetle's face, and then we got his grumpy face right here. Just pops right on. Grrr. Now he's ready for battle. All the puppets, their fingers, the armature inside their fingers is made out of floral wire. Because all the animation on the hands is so delicate, the hands are always the first thing to break. And so we make hundreds and hundreds of these hands. And so when a finger breaks, what we'll do is we'll just take the hand off and then put a new one on. When a character needs to hold something like this bow, all the puppets have these hidden little spots on their hands. You can see it's actually exposed right here, but what we do is we open up a hole in the hand and in the silicone that's right here, and then we screw the prop into the hand, and then he'll hold it. And then when he puts it down, we unscrew it and we'll take it out. Kubo here, he's holding this stuff. He's got the same kind of thing, a little hole in his hand that can hold the prop. Now, Monkey, she was a different thing altogether. She was very tricky to figure out. What you want to minimize in stop motion is chatter. When you touch a puppet that's made out of pure fur, the stuff can boil around, and it looks really distracting when you're seeing that on screen. And so what this is actually made out of is it's a fake fur that we comb silicone through it to kind of make it look kind of like a papery material. Because of the kind of activity that she needed to do in the movie, she's essentially like a ninja. She does all this kind of martial arts, kung fu action stuff. So she needed to be really flexible, which meant that the armature needed to be able to squash and stretch, kind of like a 2D cartoon. She has essentially a sock under her body that has a little muscle suit in it that allows us to kind of expand and contract her body. And then over the top of that, we lay this fake fur that we then comb silicone through to make it look like it does here. She's got these replacement faces here, and this material here, this is a kind of a plastic material, and so to blend that with the silicone, we comb through a number of different kinds of silicone here, and then put some of the hard pieces in different parts of the fur to make those things look like they're blending together in the best way possible. So she was a really tricky puppet to figure out, but I think she looks pretty cool. Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
They're actually surprisingly soft.
Yeah.
And every single one of them has tiny little rigging points, like you can see on her back here. She's got this little hole in her back where we can plug a rig in. So when she needs to jump off the ground, we can plug a rig into her back, and that'll keep her suspended in the air while she's jumping or doing her flips or all that sort of thing. For Kubo, like this is a full face. For Beetle, this is a full face. Oftentimes the way we print these things out is we actually have a brow and then a mouth. And because we can print those things separately, we can get different expressions. And so sometimes you'd want maybe this mouth here with a surprised brow, or this mouth here with an angry brow, or a happy brow. And by having all these different parts that we separate in two, we can get a lot more different kinds of expressions. And then if there's a little seam in between, then once the shot is done, then in our compositing program in the computer, we just paint out that little seam. Then it blends perfectly onto the face. And so these things are all pretty amazing little marvels of engineering, but they're also like little beautiful works of art in and of themselves. But they have to function, they have to perform, they have to animate. And these are just some of the characters in the film.
Life has a funny way of keeping things balanced.
Monkey, do you ever say anything encouraging?
I encourage you not to die.
Never, never do a sequel. I will never.
Nothing? Really?